Breaking news, we've just got more information on the compulsory service program that's coming. Once a weekend, every year, 18-year-olds around the UK will have to serve as Chelsea or United manager. This is the ArsenalVision Post-Match Podcast. My name is Elliot, the Black Man, Twitter, Yankee Gunner. That's right, compulsory service as the Chelsea or United manager. This will, first of all, allow them to sack managers on a weekly basis and keep moving through them until they find that young manager who is the next Mikel Arteta, who they can then also sack. I guess it's called national service compulsory. So let's be honest, the whole thing is just ridiculous anyway. So whatever it's called, it really doesn't matter. I don't think we're going to be seeing it anytime soon, but I do think that if United or Chelsea implemented it, that could be one approach to solving their problems. However, United may not need a new manager because they may be sticking with Erik ten Hag now that their season is a success. Lols. We are going to attempt to answer questions today. So we're going to get into transfer stuff in the middle of the pod, but at the top of the pod, we'll talk FA Cup and a bit of whether Arsenal's season was a success and what makes for a successful season, and what would make for a successful next season. I think it is good to level set on what we're actually trying to achieve, and I think we all know. And I think if I had to guess, I think a large majority of the people that participate in this pod and listen to this pod might have a similar feeling. But having a similar feeling doesn't mean there aren't other viewpoints that are worth exploring and discussing. So I think it's a good time to take a deep breath and say, hey, was this a successful season? And what would a successful season next season look like? We will do some stuff later this week on what we got right and wrong as a podcast this season, and how that impacts how we think about Arsenal. Clive won't be on that because it'll just be a list of the things you got right. It's super annoying. So we won't do that. And it is transfer week over on the Patreon. So if you want scouting videos, Clive is literally going to be chained to a computer doing scouting videos live from 9 a.m. to 9 p.m. the next 4 days straight. I haven't told him that yet, so I'm going to let him know that when I speak to him later. Here with me now is Clive. You can find him on Twitter at ClivePSC. Hello, Clive.
Hello. And to be honest, I've already started. So for those that follow me, for those not follow me, no, I'm just flicking out the odd little video. You know that I'm researching, getting ready for when Elliot comes up with his rubbish during a scouting video. I'm ready for him. Do you know what I mean? So,
I am here to be swatted away, sir. That is my job. My job is to be the irritant that sparks you into life as you start swatting and all the good stuff comes out. And here with me now as well is Paul. You can find him on Twitter. Pause my pants. Hello, Pause.
Woohoo! Clive, one to make note of for your scouting. A guy from the Eastern European leagues, a guy called Volodymyr Bologolovsky.
Yeah, oh, yeah. Speaking of which,
I might have said the name the same way twice, so that adds cred.
That's a start.
Yeah, and then I said it wrong at the event. Speaking of which, if you missed our event at Alexander Palace but have an interest in it, it's now up on YouTube, and it was on this very feed as an audio stream. It's I still think there's stuff in there that's relevant, right? There's a little bit on the West Ham City, Arsenal, Everton situation on the final weekend, but most of it is season summary stuff and awards, player of the season, moment of the season. James handed one particularly funny one out if you want to check that. But so certainly welcome to have a look at that. Let's start with this though, Clive. Manchester United won the FA Cup. And I have to be honest, look, I hate Manchester United with a white hot passion. There was a time once where I wanted nothing but bad things to befall them, and I continue to want nothing but bad things to befall them. But for me, my attitude is sort of screw Manchester City forever. Any glory they have is stolen glory, and I don't want to see them have any. I'd rather be in a rivalry with and have a fiery, passionate hatred for United than have anything good happen to City. It feels just fake, and I think that allows people to write it off. So I can understand why they don't mind it as much. But what are your thoughts on Manchester City looking, if I can say it, a bit on the beach for the FA Cup final? Frankly, if you look at the second goal, I've not seen City play that way all season, where they just weren't tracking and gave United all kinds of room and didn't seem to close down. But thoughts on the Cup final and City not being able to lift their level to compete?
Well, Manchester United decided to play a bit, didn't they, and play properly. And so I watched a game with a good friend of mine who's a coach who is an ex-Man United player, actually. And we sat and watched the game, and he was saying to me, "Come on, go lads, press them. And I was trying to explain to him, don't press them, just sit exactly where you are. Because as soon as you jump out of them holes, they're going to jump in. I don't know if anyone saw the playoff game yesterday. Joe Rodon went fishing,
Yep.
jumped out of his hole. What happened? Armstrong straight in behind goal, 1-0. You're in the league for another year. Idiot.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So basically, Man United were very disciplined. They were able to play out from the back. They had their two best centre-backs on the pitch for the first time since I don't know when. And they were able to play out from there. Good use of fullbacks, Dallo and Wan-Bissaka on the outside, staying nice and narrow. And playing no centre forwards with almost two split forwards on the outside. I really liked how they approached it. I really did. And okay, you could say this is not Man United. They should take them on. Well, we didn't take on City at their ground, and we were. There were periods in the home game we had to play like that just to make sure you're in the game and you're forcing them to make adjustments. And City did. They overcooked their fullbacks, went too high, and Man United continuously went in behind them. And the big issue, this is into tactical stuff now, but the big issue for me is it happened in our home game. Giving Walker and Guardiola the ball, they're not going to kill you, right? And then what happens if you hold your block? Foden and Kevin De Bruyne have to come outside of it to receive it. Once they come outside of it to receive it, they're further away from your goal. It was Ten Hag did a really good job, but it does make you think, where has this been? You know, where has this been? You know, they have played this whole season without a midfield. So if you're a Man United fan, okay, you might have a bit of a sore head today. Hold on, mate, you've lost about 13 games this season. I think the number is, Elliot. You can tell me in a minute. You lost about 13 games. That's too many. And I don't think you even had a plus goal difference. So it does make me think.
-1.
-1. There you go, mate. It does make you wonder, doesn't it?
They lost 14 games, by the way.
14 games. There you go. So it's not good enough, is it? It's not good enough. So, but good day for them on the day, though.
Yeah, I mean, to me, it looked a little bit like Manchester City just felt like they could turn up and win this game, and if not, they weren't going to be too fussed about it. That's honestly what it looked like. I mean, I'm not going to sit here and say United didn't do some things well, but I've never seen Manchester City since Pep arrived play any passage of play like they played the second goal that United scored. Literally never. The way they dropped off, the way they didn't do recovery running, the way they left space. Now, I will say, Bruno Fernandes, that's just sensational, that pass to Mainu. And you can hate Bruno Fernandes. Believe me, I do. But I think he is the one bit of star quality in that Manchester United team. And, you know, United fans might point to, and Eric Ten Hag certainly will, oh, when I don't have injuries, look what I can do. Paul, I just think it's a case that Manchester United have the ability to play like a small club. They can junk up the midfield, they can get compact, and they can counter. The problem is, over a 38-game season, in the games where they have to have the impetus, where the burden is on them and they try to play through the thirds and they get stretched out, that's where you really see the mess that they are. And so I would be delighted if they stick with Ten Hag. I think every non-United fan would be. There are a lot of big United fans saying Ten Hag must stay, that this sort of shows that there's an exciting project happening there. If that's their takeaway, I think that's absolutely brilliant. But in a way, I think this is the kind of thing that can show how an FA Cup can actually throw you off the scent of what's really happening, because United have just gone through their worst league season in their club's history. And they're now genuinely thinking of keeping the manager who put them through that, because he survived Coventry thanks to VAR, and then got past a City team that literally had been out clubbing the night before the game. So your thoughts on the final and the takeaway that Eric Ten Hag should stay, that this proves he is the man for the job.
It is. It's almost delicious, isn't it? It's almost perfect how it played out.
Yeah.
They got themselves some rinky-dink little trophy. Their team had a good day.
I got to stop you there, because that's not going to go down well. I think it is a lovely trophy, the one we have won more than anyone else, and United are now right on our tails because of this.
Yeah.
But let's just pump the brakes on rinky dink there, please. Okay, keep going.
Go. I'm trying to inflate my balloon here.
Oh, good. Okay.
I did see a few polls online with Eric Ten Hag. Who should they go for as a manager? Should they keep him? And they had some other, I guess, the names that are floating around. And Eric Ten Hag, off the top of the charts in terms of who they wanted to keep there. I'm
Love it.
Wonderful. Love it, guys.
Love it.
It's absolutely great. They play a little bit of good. Look, the thing about United is they always have had enough talented players who don't play good games but play great moments in bursts. Your Fernandez's, your okay, we run out of them pretty quick, but your Garnachos, we love a bit of Garnacho. Your Rashfords,
Mm.
like they'll have a moment, they'll have a flash, and low scoring sport. If they sit in, and that's the thing about playing City, right? It's almost a perfect combination for them, where there's got every excuse in the world not to have to be too expansive. But once they start being somewhat expansive and having to cover territory and having to have a structure, it's amazingly how poor Eric Ten Hag has done. He's got to be a far better coach than what this Man United team has been season in, season out.
Mm.
So, like, there is the temptation to say, "Oh, it's circumstances," and with new sheriffs in town on top, we need to give Eric Ten Hag his head, and this is just it's a win-win, right? It's delicious enough that they might think about it, and we know we all want to see the Eric Ten Hag experiment played out for
Oh, yeah.
another season or two. Give the man a chance, which he hasn't really had. He has had a lot of injuries to deal with. You know, he hasn't really had Lisandro Martinez available to him and other key players. And like, you can come up with enough excuses. But what is that abomination of football he's been playing with for some time? I mean, it is understandable in that United is such a weird, big, like if they did a West Wing of football or whatever, you know, all the intrigue, all a Game of Thrones of football, like Man United's a mess, but it's got
Yeah.
it all in there. You can come up with the reasons why like his biography on that could probably be pretty good reading if he ever rolled up the sleeves and got stuck in there. And
Yeah.
I want him given another chance.
Honestly, United can win the next 25 FA Cups in a row if they have this league season in every one of them. I would be fine with that. I mean, I think we are seeing at United what can happen when your standards slip and you spend some time in the wilderness. You start to forget what acceptable looks like. And suddenly you're talking yourself into the idea that a guy that finished with a -1 goal difference, lost 14 games, got beat 4-0 at Crystal Palace in front of the world on a Monday night is a guy you can hold on to because he got you an FA Cup. I mean, I know it is a played out reminder. And by the way, like, it is not analogous, but Wigan won the FA Cup and were relegated. You know, like you have to look at the league season. The league season is 38 games. It is the best measure of who you are and what you are doing. Cup football is weird. Weird things happen. Dortmund, who have not had a particularly good season, are in a Champions League final. The draw, the scheduling, all those things can play out such that you wind up in a position to potentially win a cup. But it's the 38-game league season that tells you who you are, Clive.
Yeah, you're right and all that. But as you were talking, a thought just hit my mind, right? That to us, Manchester United job is, get Man United in the top end of the team, of the league, sorry, and hopefully back to winning leagues, etc., etc. Well, there are different phases to this job. Well, the job right now with the new ownership, what do you think the job actually going to entail? It's going to entail a number of players leaving, a number of players coming. That means it's going to be an unstable environment for the next year. Do you want to give that unstable environment to a new manager that's going to be your sort of manager that you've hired as part of your identity as a new ownership group? Or do you want to give it to somebody that job is going to be quite bumpy and lumpy, to somebody that's got a little bit of credit in the house at the moment, but you don't really love him? He's not really one of yours. So let him take the lumps and bumps and kicks and make sure that you protect the next job for somebody else. Maybe if you can get next guy now who you really, really want, but make sure he's got a long contract so all the fans know exactly what this is all about, then do it. If not, if you can't get the guy that you really want, then stay with this guy and do an Emery on him, make him take the bumps, and then kill him. Do you see what I mean? And that's what could happen. And so yeah, it's going to be an interesting one. The job is not your job as we grew up with. The job at this club at the moment is we've got some rebuilding to do on the pitch. We've just rebuilding off the pitch. We've got some infrastructure to rebuild, that's for sure. The ground and the training ground needs to change. So while this is all going on, do I want to have my guy, the guy I really love, in situ? So those are the
Yeah.
discussions I think are happening in the exec rooms at the moment.
I guess the only pushback is whether you want the manager involved in the decision about who the people are you bring in. And in that case, are you letting a guy who you know is just kind of riding out the bumpy period pick the players in the system that the future will be built around? And I do want to correct one thing you said. We did not kill Unai Emery. He actually managed Villa this season and beat us twice. So maybe we should have killed Unai Emery and we might be champions this season. Just a point there, Paul.
Yeah, as I listen to Clive, he's starting to give me hope. And I do think the interesting question for
Hope that
Braille.
United will be bad or hope that United will be good? Because what does hope mean in this sentence?
Well, they're not going to be good. I mean,
Okay, good.
come
All
on,
right.
they're
No.
miles away.
Okay.
But the Eric Ten Hag experiment playing out, like, because that's really the question for Brailsford and Co. Are they ready for the spotlight to switch to them? Because if they're not, if they're thinking, you know what, we need to start getting our players in here, but we don't want the clock starting now. We don't want it to be the post Eric Ten Hag. It's all about Brailsford and Co. and our performance framework that we put in place. Like, they can plausibly say to themselves, you know what, we're not ready yet. We might need 6, 9, 12 months to really get things rolling here and start the turnover, get the old squad out, get the new squad in. We can use the guy did well enough that we had to give him a shot, blah, blah, blah. He's starting to turn things around, put the spotlight on Eric Ten Hag for a little bit, they may not be sure that the guy they really want is there. Like, there may be enough questions that they're like, okay, we'll use Eric Ten Hag as a human shield. And, he's over there. He's over there, everybody. That's where you point your missiles, and gives us another 6, 9 months to get aligned. And because all those players basically have got to go. What did we see? When did we start being good at Arsenal? In reality, we started being good, very good. It's a complete squad turnover, right?
Mhm.
That's what it's going to take for them to be good. They're going to keep. I mean, they may start functioning well with three or four of those players in their team, in their squad, but it's probably 2 or 3 seasons. So it's a long old road. When are they ready to have the United fans? And, like, we've seen how quickly you get judged. By September or October, the verdict could be in on Brailsford and Co. that they don't know how to do this if they've had a manager, some signings this
Yeah.
summer and a couple of months, and suddenly it's like, oh, and how long did it take us to turn it around? It was, a year and a half, and even after a year and a half, it was, the thumbs were maybe not down, but they were sideways. It
Mm.
was 2.5 years before you could get acknowledgement beyond the faithful that things are starting to point in the right direction.
Yeah. Well, okay, but so this is where I want to start to turn the ship a little, because if you look at United, and I recommend you do because it's quite hilarious. They were second and 74 points, and then they were sixth on 58, and then they were third on 74 points, and then they were eighth on 60. There is no indication of progression in a linear sense. Now, we know that progress isn't always necessarily linear, but 2 seasons ago, they were third. And you had United fans on streams and on podcasts predicting them to finish second this season. Some with extreme hubris predicted them to win the title. Okay, you're a fan, you can do whatever you want. The expectation at United was progress, and what they got was regress. Yeah, they regressed substantially, and that's where I think you have a worry when you see a season like this after you'd finished third and you've fallen back so far. That really undermines the suggestion that there's progress. And that's where I want to start to turn towards the question of whether our season was a success. And Clive, we have talked about this on the pod. You really can't let trolls on social media define your worldview or frame the question. Bad faith people, especially fans of other clubs, are going to do their best to upset you and make you feel bad about your club and try to prop up their club. That's how this works. Okay. But even some Arsenal supporters I've talked to in WhatsApp groups, I'm not just talking about on social media, actual friends, took this cup win for United kind of hard. And there was this sort of like, well, their season was more of a success than ours. They won a trophy. Liverpool's season was more of a success than ours. They won a trophy, and like we've been down this road intellectually before, but I do want to ask you, I suspect I know the answer. You're going to say our season was a success, but is there a difference between the season being good and a success, or the season being progress and a success? Like, what does is winning a trophy, whatever the trophy may be, somehow an indicator of greater success than what we accomplished? How do you frame the need to win trophies? Because I think clubs want to put those banners up and add those trophies to the trophy cabinet, unless you're Spurs and then you just want to make DVDs of good halves of football you played. But how do you think about the success of this season with that word in focus, and what success is for a football club overall?
Yeah, success is up to your own personal measures. I mean,
Mm.
for me, I just look at the numbers. Really, I look at the numbers. I look at the feeling, and I look at how competitive we are in Europe's top 20, top 10, top 6, and we spent a lot of time outside of that top 15 in the last few years.
Mm.
And our points total over the last 5 years tell us something. We've won more games we've ever won in our 130-year history this season. We've got our second highest points total ever in our history this season. We conceded the least goals in the league. We are just 1 or 2 goals of scoring the most goals in the league. I look at how we play. I look at how we play and how I feel watching the team. And there are people saying this is the best team since the Invincibles. And I can only say in my life, I had a great period around the end of the 80s. Into 90s was okay. It was good, and the European Cup final and in Copenhagen was excellent. There were some real high moments, but the real quality came later on, from 98 to 2004. And then we have this group. We have a young group, the Cess group, the Van Persie group, really exciting. We have this group that's exciting both ends of the pitch with the right level of physicality and technical ability and the right level of fan engagement, which I think is really important. So we become a really strong being as a whole. And so to me, success is that really. Now, would I like to win a trophy? Well, absolutely would love to win a trophy. But this team isn't trying to win the Carling Cup. It really isn't. It's setting its sights on the big two. Being in the latter stages of the European Cup and really fighting top 2, top 3 for the Premier League in the toughest league in all the top 5 leagues. And if you look at the competitiveness of the other top 5 leagues, the points differential in the Premier League is really quite short, and we're right there. We're right there. And what we spent a long time looking at the top teams and thinking we're a mile away. And now we're right there. Expectations going to grow. This conversation this time next year, Elliot, could really have a slightly different edge to it if we don't win something. Because I think the time of this project is really to win. This year would have been nice, but next year there's an expectation, isn't there? You can feel it. You can feel it developing. That we win something next year, we get some trophies on the sideboard, and we are able to compete in more than one competition with a level of certainty. I think that's the thing we have to aim for. But for me, the last 2 seasons have been the most favourite seasons of my Arsenal watching life. I've said that before, and I'll say it again. With not even a debate. They've been unbelievable watching seasons. So success for me is how I feel about the team, how I feel about the club. And yeah, I've seen the trophies, mate. I've seen them all. But I haven't felt like this, so maybe that's just my age. Maybe that's just my maturity talking there. But
I don't think so.
Yeah, just how I feel. And so, yeah, success for me, it's been a successful season. And don't worry about Manchester United. When the hangovers wear off, they'll start to look at themselves and look in the mirror and say, hold on a minute, we got some things to do.
Yeah, and look, the Premier League has become so eventized and so big There are people that are like, oh, but look at the great day out United just had. They had this great day out. We need a great day out like that. I will tell you something. The way the Premier League has become eventized, we had 28 great days out this season, 28 wins that felt like a cup final because the Premier League's become so big and so eventized. And, beating Chelsea 5-0, and beating Newcastle 4-0, and beating Liverpool finally right at home, and beating City at home, beating United with a late winner, winning away at Old Trafford, winning away at Spurs. Would you trade that to be in United's position? I mean, I know that no one would. And people would say, by the way, that's a false binary. We don't have to trade being good in the league to win a cup. I mean, I think Arsene Wenger got absolutely hammered when he said top 4 is a trophy. Since that time, I think it has proven true. I think he's been borne out. And frankly, I think many United fans would trade that FA Cup they just won to be back in the Champions League. And I know that that's where clubs want to be. And so you could say we didn't win a trophy this season, but what's lost in this wonderful season we put together is we're back in the Champions League, back with a dream of winning the biggest trophy, the one we don't have and the one we desperately need to add to our collection. So I don't want to diminish the FA Cup. It is a special thing. And I think as an American, you have to be careful because there are a lot of people in England who grew, and the UK generally, who grew up remembering sitting with their dad and their mom in a living room with the TV on, watching the FA Cup because it was all that was televised and it was on the national broadcaster. And the FA Cup final was the big thing you could watch on TV. And it just has a cultural significance that it doesn't have for a lot of foreign fans. That's just the reality. I'm not trying to do like foreign fans aren't real fans. It's a different connection. It has also been diminished. Let's just level with each other. The Premier League and the Champions League have surpassed it. And so the false equivalency, especially with the League Cup, of saying you have to win a trophy. You said, Clive, we all think next season is the winning season. I agree. Someone on the internet and I got in a conversation. They were like, well, let's at least admit we have to win a trophy next season, right? And I said, I don't agree. And the reason I don't agree is if we have United's season next season, finish 8th and win the FA Cup, no one's going to say, there you go, we got our trophy, we did it. People are going to be fucking miserable. Clive, it sounded like you wanted to come back in quickly. And then Paul,
only quickly on the basically on the Man United thing. For Man United fans that didn't finish in the top 4, this FA Cup means a lot to them because of how they went into it and playing Manchester City, the team that's just sprung up an estate of buildings in their own town, have an unbelievable stadium, have an academy stadium. They've got a new fan park that's being built there. They've got the new music centre that's all been built there. This is all happening on their doorstep while their roof is leaking and their training ground is old. So able to go to Wembley and blood their nose, this is a big day for them. This is a big day, really big, but it will settle. And although that their hole will still be in the roof, and Man City will still be across the way with their 4th league title in a row and the recent Champions League. And so they will have to sober up quickly. But I just wanted to caveat say, if we were in their position in a shocking state to be a Spurs in a final, it would mean a lot to us. Do you know what I mean? So just a little bit of context there, really, I want to add.
And this is the problem. This is the problem with trying to analyze league football. People say, you have to win something. What do you mean we don't have to win something? We have to win something. If City get a draw on the final day, we're champions, and everyone's going, Mikel Arteta's a genius. The project came to fruition. It's a perfect season. If Son finishes as 1v1, we had 89 points. We won 28 games in a 38-game league season. Everyone knows what we did. We produced our greatest ever goal difference. If next season we get 99 points and 100 goal difference, and finish 2nd and don't win a cup, are people going to say our project's a failure? It's not working. There is a component of this where it is simply out of your hands. For me, success is, did we play great football and did we show progress in the results we produced? But my metric is not, did we win one of the 2 domestic cups that I regard as not the focus? And by the way, if you want to say, well, there should be the focus, go look at the lineups. Go look at the lineups that the big clubs put out in the 4th round of the FA Cup. They're not the starting lineups. They're not the first 11s. There's a reason. There's a recognition that there are other things that are prioritized. And for the people who say, well, why are we chucking the cups? We lost to Liverpool in a game I think we sort of outplayed them in a very well-contested FA Cup tie where we were a bit unlucky. We had the upper hand and they got a goal and it turned the tie. We didn't chuck the FA Cup. We lost it fair and square in a really well-contested cup tie where we're a bit unlucky. So would I like us to have gone deeper in the FA Cup? Sure. But everything is circumstantial because I think we all agree if City had gone deeper in the Champions League, they maybe dropped those extra points that we need to be champions in the Premier League, right? If we don't get past Porto, we're miserable. But if we don't have Bayern, do we beat Villa? I think we do. So this stuff is all bound up together. It's very hard to separate any of it. For me, success is simple, right? Are we playing great football and accumulating lots of points in the league and showing progress in our direction? And I cannot say that a trophy is the definitive proof of success because next season, if we win the FA Cup and finish fourth, I will personally probably regard that as regressing. So I don't know, Clive, Paul, pardon me. How do you think about what I want to be clear is a very fair demand for silverware. It's the point of all this, but using silverware as the metric by which you judge whether a club is doing well and is successful generally.
Interesting framing. So yeah, silverware is the point, but not silverware now, right? Right.
Talk yourself out of this one, buddy.
Well, we're like, let me tell you why I think it's a very successful season. It's because it was the season I was hoping for from this club at the start of this season. Little slow to get going. They overdid, like if you divide it into thirds, we kind of built as we went along. They overdid the let's start slowly part of it, right? So that's
Slightly, yeah.
Yeah. So that's where I'd subtract some points there. But they finished stronger than I thought was reasonable to demand of this team to do. I mean, that run-in, what was it? 18 games, we won 16, drew 1, lost 1. Oh, we should have not lost the 1. Okay. So
should not lose any. Just lose
should
0.
not lose any.
Don't lose
And
any.
shouldn't draw away to City. I think that's a phenomenal run-in. And what I was looking for from this club, you talked about direction. Like, I think it depends on whether you buy into the trajectory that this club is on a trajectory to something that, like, I'm not, in a sense, it would be underwhelming if this team doesn't become demonstrably pretty much around the best team in the world at the end of this. That's when I'll start talking about having missed, having failed, having not got to what, because of the project, not because these players are already that level, but because of where this project is clearly aimed between Arteta with the backing of KSE. Like, they're not in this to get top 4 or to flirt around winning. Like, they're going for all the way. They're looking to win the league. They're looking to be debatably the best team in the world. I mean, you're never going to have it all to yourself. You might be in a mix of 2-3 clubs that are the best. Like, that's where we're trying to get to. And if that means that you need to stratify your objectives and say, you know what, the league is one thing, Champions League is one thing, then there's the cups. And to your point, every club makes trade-offs with that. And if you're in the later stages of it, then you go for it big time and you try to win the FA Cup. But you got to separate out season and cups. They're just different things. Even Europe and the league is different, right? And so when you judge the season, you got to align your objectives. Like, if you're all about trophies by any means, you're not aligned with the club or modern clubs generally. It doesn't mean they're not important. It doesn't mean you don't go for them. But your incentives, your alignments are just different to the clubs. You're measuring the club on something it's not even trying to do. It's trying to win cups when it can, whereas it's absolutely 100% committed to progress in the league season and in the Champions League. That's what, and I would say even the league more than the Champions League. It's not that they would prefer to one competition, but they need to see the progress in the league. That's where everything else comes from in the next year and the year after and the year after. If you're strong in the cups but crap in the league, you're going to have problems next season. You just are, and down the line. So it's all about trajectory. And if you buy into that, you're aligned. And if you're not, you're going to feel a little out of sorts with what's going on. And yeah, it's all about trophies, but like the ones you can demand of yourself are the ones that should come when you hit the levels you're trajectorizing towards.
Yeah, I think, maybe the way you do this, an interesting intellectual approach for this, or a heuristic, is to think of it in terms of priorities and where you performed in those priorities. So, for example, let's say my daughter goes to school and she has math class, or as Clive might say, maths class. Okay. And she has English, right? Reading and writing. And she has pottery and handwriting. Those are her 4 classes. If my daughter comes home with a B plus in maths and a B plus in English and a D in handwriting and a D in pottery, okay, it's not the perfect report card, but I'm okay with it. If she comes home with an F in maths and an F in English and an F in pottery and an A plus in handwriting, I'm not going to go, we got an A plus. We're going out to celebrate. That's basically what Manchester United did. They failed the important classes and they aced one of the lesser important classes. And it's great that they aced it. It doesn't change that they failed the ones that are priority. Arsenal didn't get the A plus in the Premier League. We got an A minus. And we didn't get the A plus in the Champions League. We got a B plus. And okay, we kind of didn't pass the domestic cups, but we did really well in the things that are the priority, right? I want to remind you this. The Invincibles would have lost the title to City this season. And we'd be sitting here going, well, they shouldn't have drawn 12. So it's like, I think ultimately, every season for me fundamentally is going to be measured on what we do in the league and the Champions League. If next season we crash out of the Champions League in the group stage and we finish 5th in the Premier League and we win the League Cup or the FA Cup, that will not be a good season for me. Now, I want to say this to anybody listening who is screaming at their device. If that's a good season for you, I can't take that from you, nor would I want to. If you say, Elliot, nothing's more important to me than lifting a trophy, and I'll do it at the expense of anything. I'd trade places with United. I'd suffer through a humiliating 38-game league season and crash out embarrassingly of Europe if it got us this FA Cup day out. I cannot take that from you. You have every right to want that, and that's how you measure success. Let people like what they like. Let people like what they like. But for me, if your pursuit intellectually is to measure progress, when you have 89 points in the league and your record ever goal difference and you're into the quarterfinals of the Champions League, you have made progress and you are going in the right direction. And I had 28 great days out, so to speak, in the league this season. And I wouldn't trade that for the humiliation of a worse league campaign for one of those domestic cups. And that's where I am. So that's why I feel the way I do. And it is not, running propaganda for the club to say it. It is simply that ultimately, I don't think any of us as Arsenal supporters are going to feel true joy until we're hoisting the Premier League trophy or the Champions League trophy. The seasons we won the FA Cup, the Hull one was important. The Hull one was important because it broke a 10-year trophy drought. So I acknowledge that one felt really significant. But those other 2 FA Cups that we won under Arsene Wenger, we were still saying, change the manager. There was still we care, do you campaigns, right? Kroenke out campaigns. There were all kinds of negativity around our club. And the FA Cup didn't fix that. If you were at the Emirates against Everton the other day, or near it, or saw it, or streamed it, or watched it, we didn't have that going on when we won the FA Cups, at the tail end of Arsene's time. So the progress to me is clear. Paul, final thought on this, and then we can shift gears to transfers so that people have something to listen to.
Yeah, look, I agree with you. If if you're a listener, if you're a fan, and what you want is, success, and you want success in terms of the cups and the FA Cup, and like you wish that was you, I get all that. But I don't think anybody who feels that way can say that's how the club or the clubs in general at our level see it. And so there is this misalignment. It's like you're
Good point.
grading somebody. You're grading the club on something they're not really trying to do. It's not that they're not trying to win the FA Cup. They're just going to do their best with a compromised, traded off squad in the early rounds, as you talked about. And if they're in the quarterfinal and in the semifinal, they go for it. And that's what you grade them on. you can't grade them on success for their season when the starting point for each of these big clubs, it's like grading your kid on, on pottery and art. When, to use your analogy, your kid has a very clear view that they want to go to do. They want to be a doctor, and that's all they really care about. And they want to do well in art, and they want to do well in pottery, but they're going to put all their time and energy over the summer getting ready for school, for math, science, languages, this, that, and the other, because that's what medical school or whatever your academic structure, that's where the point, where I came from, it was points, right? And you did the subjects that you needed for college, and you did the ones that maximized your points, and subjects that you might be interested in or your parents might have a fondness for went by the wayside.
Yeah.
And it didn't mean that you didn't try and do well in those classes, but you have a limited amount of time, resources, choices to make. And in the end, you care about your trajectory. Thank you for that analogy, Elliot.
And thank you for
Excellent
restating
analogy.
it.
I thought it sucked to begin with because I wasn't any clearer on things, but now
that you've said it. Now that
I've reframed it. I've really reworked the whole thing from scratch. Yeah.
Well, that's right. I give you the clay, and then you mold it into the pottery. But again, we're not focused on pottery. Let's be clear. Clive, please wrap this up for us.
Yeah, I think, the whole thing around Manchester United winning the cup and waking up maybe some thoughts in Arsenal fans' mind, I understand that for a short period, but it should really be waking up thoughts in Newcastle's mind, Spurs' mind, Chelsea's mind, because then you could ask them, which one of, has Man United had a better season than us? And you probably say, yeah. Despite the fact that Spurs finished many points ahead of them, Newcastle, they started the season in the Champions League. They ended up, is it outside of Europe? Chelsea in the Conference League. And Manchester United have used the fact that the FA Cup to get them into Europa League, which will get another 30, 35 million if they're lucky. The FA Cup now is £2 million prize money. That's all it is for, but you get that Europa League place. You can also make money from that. When you think about what the Premier League prize money fund and what the Champions League gives, you can see where the focus is, right, from a financial point of view. So for Arsenal, we're trying to go somewhere else, right? We've just bought a player for £100 million. I never thought I'd see that in my lifetime, right? So we're trying to go somewhere else. We're literally trying. It may sound laughable to people when we haven't won anything for a couple of years, but we're trying to be the best team in the world. That's what we're trying to do, and we're definitely trying to beat the best team in the world. And that's where our goals are. That's where our ambitions are, and that's why we're keeping players. That's why we're attracting players. So we have to just reset our minds way back from where we used to be, and set our minds on where we're going, and we're going there real quick.
Yeah, and look, I presume anybody listening to this podcast, similar to everybody on this podcast, devotes a lot more mental and emotional energy to Arsenal than is healthy. Okay? We spend 10 months at a minimum hanging on every Arsenal result. Then there's the 2 months we spend hanging on every transfer rumor, which we're about to get to. If you spend 10 months hanging on every result, the idea to me that you're willing to go through the 10 months United just had, where it is literally making you miserable weekend in and weekend out, and midweek too, and you're being embarrassed and your club's being dragged through the mud and you're a laughing stock, to get the one big day, the one joyful day at the end. Like, if you want that, that's fine. But like, those 10 months, my life hangs on every result. And feeling like I liked watching us play and I like the direction we're going. So I guess this is very much is it about the journey or is it about the destination? Let's be clear. For the club, they have to make it about the destination. They have to. Winning something is the goal. But to Paul's point, we'll finish on Paul's point because it is a good one. The goal for them is the Champions League and the Premier League. I guarantee you when they sit down for their exit interview on the season, Edu and Mikel say, how do we get further in the Champions League? How do we get the 2 more points we need in the Premier League? They're not sitting there going, how do we lift the FA Cup and League Cup? Not that they're not going to try, but it's not their priority. So let's do this. I got to tell you about NordVPN. And then we can talk transfer rumors and a bit of the headlines. We'll talk Paqueta and some manager roundup stuff too as well. So look, NordVPN is an easy one for me because it is one that I absolutely use all the time. Just used it when I was over in London, and it's the one we get asked about most. So I'll tell you right off the bat, Our promo code that gets you 4 free bonus months is nordvpn.com/ArsenalVision. nordvpn.com/ArsenalVision. Nord lets you browse in whatever region you want to browse in. And when I'm over in London, like I want to be able to watch some of the other games and literally can just click on that VPN and go back and use my streaming accounts that I have over here. Do you know you can use a VPN to sign up for streaming accounts in other countries where they cost less? You could pay for your Nord and then some, just signing up in other regions. You can get shows that are available there before they're available here. Bluey is a big one for our family. Nord is great. They also have a lot of threat protection and stuff like that, so that when you are browsing on those streams that we sometimes use to watch football that may not be the most legit, you don't get all the crap on your phone. So give it a try. Works on phones, works on tablets, works on computers. You click, one click, it's an app. It's so easy. You can use nordvpn.com/ArsenalVision to get a huge discount off your NordVPN plan and 4 months for free. And it's completely risk-free with Nord's 30-day money-back guarantee. That's nordvpn.com/ArsenalVision. Do it now, Clive. Is that enough of that?
Indeed.
Nailed it. Okay, Clive, transfer rumors. Let me just start with silly season. You got some people saying we're getting Marcus Rashford. I saw him celebrating at the FA Cup. He lifted up his shirt, and I think he had a Red Devils tattoo on his stomach. I could be wrong, but it sure looked like it. I feel like that would be a very awkward thing to see when he takes his shirt off celebrating winning the Premier League with us, but I could get over it if we were winning the Premier League.
It would be very painful for him joining us, but still very doable.
Yeah, I mean, well, so that's the question, Clive. I mean, like, I understand
Like
that
we'd have to remove the tattoo.
Yeah. No, I followed you.
Oh, okay.
You just cut it out. But like, so look, two things. Mikel Arteta's success has convinced every club that if you stick with a manager long enough, they turn into Mikel Arteta. And Kai Havertz's success is maybe convincing us that any player can be reclaimed, even if they're at a point in their career where they're not looking very good. I am probably in the camp that I just wouldn't go with Rashford. I think there's too much water under the bridge there with that player. And I think there's a lot of other talent out there. We don't have to go to Rashford, but there are people that see him as the player that he sometimes shows glimmers of being. So what do you think? I mean, if the Marcus Rashford deal could be done, and I am not convinced it could, but if it could be done, would you do it?
I'm not sure it should be done. A really good player, a player that I've liked in the not too distant past, but he's 25, 26 now, and he's basically a sprinter by trade, and this is not the time to go for that player. He's had some struggles at Manchester United, struggles with the exposure. He could do with maybe a different environment, but it hasn't got to be Arsenal's environment. At that cost of a transfer fee and that cost of wages, I don't see it as a positive move. And more importantly, Elliot, we don't need to do it. There are other things we could do. There are lots of players with talent in the world that we don't need to go there. Now, if there's a bargain, if he's in the last year of his contract and there's a bargain on the table, then you take the French opportunity, right? You take the market opportunity, but I don't see a bargain there. And so I would rather stay away. Manchester United fans flip-flop on him big time. The chat is that he's lazy, he's this, he's that. There are videos of him in Manchester which are not too positive regarding what he does over night time, and how I just don't see the fit. I don't see the fit. So I'd rather stay away from that one, mate, to be honest.
Yeah. Paul?
If you had a way to guarantee that his fitness levels would be at the level we require of a Premier League player, I just can't get past that. Imagine if he was actually very, very good. He came across, and then he kept not being there when you needed him. I'd do my fecking head in, and I'm not going to move away from my titanium players concept, right? When Declan Rice came in, as much as you can know, I knew that guy was going to play for us 38 games a season. I knew Ben White was basically going to play 38 games a season. I love that. I love that in those players. They're great players that you can build your system around, game in, game out across the season. I don't want Rashford showing up and scoring wonder goals 4 or 5 times a season, and then he's coming back to fitness and he's playing a half a game and he's starting to feel his hammies. If they have a cure for that, great. Otherwise, like a fully fit and robust Marcus Rashford, even at 27, well, 27 October, apparently. Even at 26, yeah, there's a conversation to be had. I think he's a really good player. Would I really like to have him? Yes. But I'm just not willing. What's the cost of it? Well, it's money, but it's also that
It's just
slot,
money.
right? Yeah. It's just money, but it's the money and the slot that you should be putting to the guy that you think can play 32, 33 games per season in the league.
Yeah.
Because if you don't have that, then you're wasting a slot.
I think this is where, yeah, Clive, please.
I also say, as a profile of player, that's the sort of player I wouldn't mind at Arsenal. And by the way, I'm going to spend a bit of time watching England. He's not in England squad, and if England going to have Harry Kane in the centre of the pitch, they're going to have a winger on the other side in Saka. The left hand side, you need an off the ball runner, and England need that guy in their squad.
Are you surprised they didn't pick Martinelli? Because he can do that.
You need an off the ball runner, someone that runs. So when Kane turns around, he's got people to hit. It's important for him, right? So from a balance perspective, I think we made a mistake there because all the other wide players are 2 feet players, and England don't dominate the ball, so we're going to end up playing the game in our own half. We need to be able to spring out. So I think it's a tactical mistake. So from a profile point of view, I really like the players, Elliot. But from an Arsenal point of view, in this dressing room, I'm not feeling that one at all, to be honest.
Yep. I think this is the thing. Sometimes you just have to remember the world is big and full of great footballers. And I do think sometimes we get really, really laser focused on one or two, right? And you start to think, well, that's the only one. That's the guy. We have to have that guy. And I do like building around Premier League experience. I think that has been a really good approach for us. Obviously with Kai and with Rice and with White, that's worked really well. Both Ramsdale and Raya to some extent. So I think building through Premier League experience, I mean, even Odegaard had the experience with us on loan, right? Before we went for Odegaard. So I do think there's something to that. I don't think you have to get so laser focused on Rashford. And I think, look, if you want to get risky on guys like Neto, who have injury track record, if you want to go to 150 million for a guy like Isak, who also has an injury track record, like there's other Premier League players you could maybe look at. And with total comp, like Isak might still be less than Rashford, depending on what you do with that contract. So I would probably not do that. I'll level with you guys. If I could have one United player for one season to take us over the line, I'm going to say the name. People know I'm going to say it. They're not going to like it. It's Bruno Fernandes. I think.
McTominay. Oh, sorry. I guessed wrong.
No, it would be Bruno Fernandes. I realize he's going to be 30 next season, but you put him in that left 8 role and the amount of chances we create, just absolutely outrageous. So, but again, you don't have to go to United for players. There's lots of places to look. Clive, let me stay with you for a second. A couple of names out there. One that's gaining steam, not necessarily for Arsenal, although Arsenal have been mentioned, is João Neves, I think is how you say his name. The 19-year-old, is it Benfica? All of a sudden I've spaced. Yeah, Benfica, right? Thanks. I believe he's a £102 million release clause. And it's like, this guy looks legit. There's no question. I mean, the opinion of him is uniformly excellent. I just don't see how you can spend that on a 19-year-old, especially if everyone's clamoring for trophies and it's time to start winning. You talk about not having time to acclimate. You're not going to have time to acclimate. You're 19. You're 102 million pounds. Like Declan Rice wore that fee pretty well, but I don't think a 19-year-old coming in from Portugal is going to be Declan Rice. So what are your thoughts on him? Super talented, but it just feels like that deal is in the stratosphere.
Yeah, do you want me to go through a few of the midfielders or just that one?
Yeah. I would love that because that sets us up for all our scouting videos this week.
So, João Neves is a nice one, and you'd be stupid not to have a look at him. And if you see the YouTubes, you're going to fall in love. You are. He's all action, hustle and bustle. Gets the ball, carries the ball. It's just everything's a collision. Looks very exciting on the highlights. I haven't seen the full 90 game, but he's very easy to love. All the hipsters out there, they know this player and would like him. I've been talking about him for a while, so he's not new to them. Like you, Elliot, I'm just not sure. I'm just not sure. Feel that one. There's the Bruno Guimaraes one. That's the one that I'm trying not to like. But again, statistically, he looks really, really good. And when you get a chance to,
Well, let me stop you. Why are you trying not? Is it because you hate the? Because I don't like the guy, but it
I'm,
feels like he's the exact kind of thing we need. So why are you trying not to like it? Because you don't like the player, or you don't think it's a good
well,
deal for
yeah,
you?
I don't like him. So, but it's hard
No, why
when you
would we?
watch But I like my football, and when you watch the football, it's hard. It's hard not to
Mm,
like him because he could be the exact player that we need from, again, profile wise, the way he plays, the experience he has. Then you start to see the underlying data around his, you know, tackling and dual winning and kilometers covered. And you're thinking, oh my goodness, creative passing. Okay. So yeah, I don't like it. That's starting to look a little bit flimsy now. Do you know what I mean? And but again, it's the number. No one's trying to help Arsenal at the moment. You got Newcastle not offering 15 million quid for Ramsdale. They're prepared to spend, I'm just reading just now, they're prepared to spend 20 million on James Trafford, who's literally
mm.
throwing them in. Do you know what I mean? So it's
Yep.
it's incredible. No one wants to strengthen Arsenal. Why would you do that? We're the enemy. So let's try to take big money from them and then we offer them little money. That's a big bugbear of mine at the moment. So he looks like
But
a good player. A
oh,
player
yeah.
that, sorry, mate, go ahead.
I was just gonna say before you move on to some other names, can I just because I think Bruno feels like one that's big in the headlines for us. So
Yeah.
keep the other names. I want to hit them in 1 second. Let me just give Paul a shot on the Bruno Guimaraes thing because
Okay, sorry, mate.
I do find this difficult in a way. Like I do fundamentally want us to sign players that make us better. Ideally, I'd like to not have the baggage of having hated them, but I could get over that really quickly the minute they pull on the shirt, look good in it, and play well in it. I know there's a lot of people that don't feel that way, that are just like, I don't think I could warm to the guy. Paul, when I look at that player, though, I think he's been a little more inconsistent than we're prepared to admit at Newcastle, but I think this is where I worry a little. It's dangerous starting to guess what's between the ears of a player, right? That's dangerous territory. You have no idea. But he is a guy that when things aren't going for him on the pitch, he starts to do that thing that we see, players like Anthony do, where they start kicking people, they start hitting people, they start stropping a bit. And that worries me just a little bit on the mentality side. So I don't think there's any question talent-wise. Do you have a question about mentality or warming to the player? Would you rather see us go another direction, or is that the guy as far as you're concerned?
So like he's 26, so he's largely formed, and it's not like he's a petulant 22-year-old. No
Yeah.
offense
This
meant
is
to our listeners who are 22 and petulant.
none
I'm not
taken.
talking about you guys. Yeah. I'm talking about the 26-year-olds among us who are mature and wise and
Mm.
have learned so much in life. But it's a bit like dog years, footballer years. Like the difference between a 22-year-old, a 20-year-old, and a 24-year-old is astounding sometimes in terms of kind of how you handle them yourself under that pressure. Back looking at Bruno Guimaraes, I think he's a really good player. I think it's all about the context you're in. If you're trying to win the game for your team, we saw with Xhaka, right, where the team was a bit shit. He didn't like being in a team that was doing poorly against the opposition, and his head would kind of start to go, and he tried to do too much, and he tried to, and like the toys start to get thrown. And there are players. I mean, they're winners. Like unlike Anthony, who's he's almost trying to be that guy.
Yeah.
Some guys are that guy where they're just bad losers. That like Rodri's a terrible fucking loser. He's quite a good winner. And so it's kind of he'd be Rodri in a bad team would probably look a bit like Bruno Guimaraes. He'd be going around kicking people and for no good reason. And so that is the beauty of recruiting in the Premier League, because if we signed him, we'd absolutely know what we were getting. And Arteta's job would certainly in the first few months be just have a word before Guimaraes goes out on the pitch and say, don't be a dickhead. This is not, you're not at Newcastle. Not that there's anything wrong with Newcastle apart from their ownership. But you're not at the stage. You're not at the team. You're not you don't need to do it all. You trust the other players out there, basically. Trust Declan Rice. Trust Saliba. you got those kinds of players around you. You don't have to do it all yourself. Don't be a dick. And I think for many players, we look at them at other clubs and they'll come to us, which is assuming we got our shit together. If we don't, we're in trouble anyway. We got our shit together. It's settled. We know what we're doing. Players, in the same way you have positional play, there's the psychological aspect of, I have a role within the team. I don't need to be the guy.
Yeah.
Bruno Fernandes being like half of his problems when people are losing their mind about you. I laugh when you say in the left 8, and it's like you put him on the pitch, he's all over the place. But that's United, right? Arteta plays him as a left 8. Like, he'll still look half rattan, half man. Don't get me wrong, but he'll play his role, right? And we'll detest him somewhat less because he would be playing for us.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It is really interesting, you guys, though, because this Paqueta ban is probably going to be a lifetime ban. And that was the guy City was going to go for. And I'd be very curious now if City not being able to go for Paqueta means that they come in for Bruno. That'll be one to watch. So, Clive, thought on that, but then also let's get some other names. Let's really fire up the transferometer here.
Yeah, excuse me. Yes, they will be coming for Bruno, and they've met these people like we have met people. Trust me, everyone knows who the talent is, and the agents go around and they talk to everybody and see what the land is. But with Pep potentially going end of next season, if you're a player, what do? Do you sign? Do you sign? A little cloud at Manchester City? Do you sign? So yeah,
could be playing in League 2. There's
a few reasons out there maybe that are just adding up, right? So to maybe have a think about that. So yeah, a player that I'm not particularly fond of from a personal point of view, but only because he runs around elbowing our players. But he's a very good player, and people say he's more of a 6 than an 8. And when he's 26 years of age, you can see him developing into that player at the base of the team. And there's many people that feel that Declan Rice is better as a left-sided centre mid that goes up and down that line, similar to Granit Xhaka, the player he replaced. And you can see that happening, couldn't you? And we'd all be comfortable with it if the player behind there was much more to our liking. So I think that's one to look out for. 2 or 3 names just to throw out there, Elliot, on top of these 3.
Let's do it.
2.
Yeah.
I'll give you my thoughts on so Zubimendi. I'm not sure of. I'm just genuinely not sure.
Zubimendi?
Yeah, I'm not sure of him.
Yeah.
The numbers, he's not running to get here. And one of our rules is if you don't want to come, then we're not interested. So I think he's happy in Spain. And if I'm Barcelona, I'm looking at him particularly. Onana at Everton, I quite like him, but he seems to step on his feet every now and again, but he looks very good defensively. If you wanted to add to our defensive side of things, he's exceptional, and he's 6'4", 6'5". It would be incredible, but our progressive passing could be a little bit down, and you'd be after me on the podcast after that to say why we got him. We can't pass the ball forward, and so no one's getting near our goal, but we can't pass it forward. So that could be a bit of a challenge. Just 2 names that I just like. One of them's Quinton Timber. You should have a look at him online. He is
Jurgen's brother, right?
Yeah, and trust me, it's very difficult to see the difference in them. But he has a wonderful presence in midfield, gets around the pitch, carries, turns. You can just close your eyes. It's like looking at his brother. He's got a better shot on the end of it and got a bit more soft feet in the pass. He carries through, he takes the ball off you, just goes up to you and just takes it off you. I look at him and think, wow, he's a good player. I quite like his all action. I'm looking at all action players this year, people that can really transition us. When we win it, we can go. Do you know what I mean? Really travel and burst. I felt sometimes we're a little bit feet orientated. We're a little bit stayed in our blocks. So I want to have the feeling we can break out, particularly if Saka's not on the pitch. Can we break out of our shape really, really quickly, a la Spurs' second goal? Can we do that? And have more people that can fly up the pitch. A player that I like, and I'm just learning about him, is João Gomez at Wolves. Another all-action 8, gets around, Brazilian player, a good number around him, gets around the pitch in all different areas. So I like him too. And I'm not sure we should be paying £100 million for Bruno. I'm not sure. I don't feel that, and I think some of the players that we love, we've developed. And so for me, it's about picking the ones that are about to explode. I look at these players and think, yeah, you could bring something to us. So that's where my gut is, just where I feel.
Paul?
Yeah, so we're going to have to spend some serious money on a player. And if you're looking at 100 for Bruno Guimaraes or something like that, for a guy who can play 6, when you have Declan Rice, who you've already paid 100 for, where you say he's done a really good job in the left 8, but he's really a 6. A 6 who you can balance with whoever's in the left 8 if you have the right combo, and they can kind of talk. We saw Jorginho pushing up in games, and Rice is like, you can do different things with different players if they have fairly complete skill sets. I'm surprised, in fact, that Clive didn't mention the guy I'm particularly
Here we
kind of
go.
representing here, Volodymyr Bologolovsky, who I know I originally talked about as a striker, but as I said to you on the show, he can do it all, right? But I'm looking at the left side of our pitch, right?
Yep.
And that includes, so I was looking at Xhaka in the DFB Pokal tournament, blasting in that thing, and I started drifting back in time. Like, I don't actually think Declan Rice is the greatest left 8 on the planet. I don't think he does the things that Xhaka did very well. Now, don't get me wrong. Uh, there's no competition between who you'd want between those two players. And I think Rice was great for us last year. But I think it was basically great for us doing variations on a central midfielder, running around, covering, screening, winning the ball back, forcing turnovers. I don't think he's yet. Now, he can learn it, but he didn't. Xhaka did so much with his much more limited physical skill set in terms of triangles, in terms of making angles for other players, in terms of running beyond. Now, he mightn't have had the legs to get to the 6-yard box. He did the triangles thing on the left side in a way that I don't think Rice is there yet. Rice is a great player, did great
Sure.
things for us from the left 8. And so I think the whole side I care about, if you compare this season's Gone's left side to the previous season's output, performance, metrics, it's way off. And that's partly left back. I think it's partly left 8, and it's partly left wing, in that Martinelli didn't have the season he could have, in that Trossard, who I love and I think is a great player and he's not the left winger, the physical profile. Like, I'd just take all our money, all our chips, I'd move Rice to the 6, and I'd get the players on the left side of the pitch. If we could get out of the left side of the pitch what we get out of the right side of our pitch,
Yeah.
we'd fucking kill. Now, I don't mean it plays in exactly the same way, but that's where you spend
The
all your
output.
money.
Yeah. I mean, I don't think anyone disputes that there's room, the room for improvement. I mean, you can always improve everything in football, but the room for improvement feels bigger on the left-hand side. Clive, thoughts on what Paul's just said?
Yeah,
Where we
Paul.
might go?
Obviously, we all want to see that balance. A bit more balance, because everyone knows where we're going, and we need to change that a little bit on the left-hand side. But from the moment we started playing Declan Rice, just look at Declan Rice's highlights at West Ham. They're all on the left side of the pitch, and so that's where he favours. And so, where does Jorginho play? On the right side of him. Where does Partey play? On the right side of him. So almost don't look at it as too much of a slant. Look at it down the half of the pitch. And Declan Rice is happier on the left-hand side of the pitch. When he plays 6, he still favours the left-hand side of the pitch. So, and he goes there and he gets it and he shapes to the right and he flicks it and he switches to the right. And so Paul, what you said there theoretically is absolutely correct. But in the scheme of things, based on the year I've watched him at Arsenal and the YouTubes and Vice Scout from scouting him at West Ham, everything is on the left. Well, most things are on the left.
So can I ask you on that, Clive? Because that doesn't preclude him everything being on the left for him as the 6, right?
No, I mean, you can invert Ben White and,
because Partey played the 6, and I would have said, look, Partey could do it on his day, he could do everything, but he favoured the right. As you said, Jorginho, like, they all have a favourite side, but you could
Doesn't mean
still
they
have.
can't walk to the other side.
Exactly.
I
But
can't go
also, it
over
doesn't
there.
preclude them. Yeah, doesn't preclude them playing the six, right? I mean,
No,
if
it doesn't.
if
It
Rice is
doesn't.
a better six, you still get it. Still doesn't. I guess. Do you see what you're saying as precluding the fact that you could say, "Look, we spent 100 million on a guy who's a great six. How about we play him as the six, even if he kind of leans a little to the left? We bring in a great left eight. We bring in one other player can play from the left hand side, and we work out what we got at left back. Maybe it's Yuri and Timber. Maybe you look, and maybe the answer is we decide Martinelli's great." And Jesus will be around, and so Martinelli just had a bit of an off season. It's not that I'm saying buy three players. I'm saying you take all your money and you make sure that the left eight is the guy you want because he's the anchor. Like imagine a world class left eight where Rice can be a world class uh, deep midfielder
Yeah.
six, and maybe you want somebody more rotary, but I'm going with the Rice 100 million deeper player, get a world class left eight. That makes everything along the left hand side far. And Rice is a great player, but I think he's almost living off his brilliant physical
He
capabilities
is.
to shine as a left eight, as opposed to doing the left eight brilliantly, which is not he's not
Your mic
Gundogan.
skills are getting loose, Paul, and it's driving me absolutely crazy.
Okay, he's not Gundogan, right?
Let,
Oh no. Well,
let me say
can
this about Rice. Yeah, go ahead, please, Clive.
sorry, Elliot.
Yeah,
I
no,
think
please.
it's all down to how we see that position, isn't it? You know, if is it, you mentioned Gundogan. So for us, if Gundogan was in our squad, we'd stick him in that little slot to left hand side, get in a half space, and just dink the ball about there.
Yeah.
And Declan, because he's so good at that, you're back here, son. You're back here in the six. You know, so but when it come down to it, we managed to find two sixes that could enable Declan to play higher up and Havertz to play at centre forward. So what did we do? We accepted that, right? So, and if we get an unbelievable left eight, we'll be back at the six. But the reason why Bruno's warming to me is he does two roles. He does the six and the eight. And so that's what we want. That's what we spend money on. You spend money on someone that can give you two jobs. Declan Rice can give us two jobs. And so we shouldn't buy somebody that just gives us the one job, because then we can be analysed by all of the laptop boys out there, and that's where I am on it really.
Yeah.
So, Clive, can I ask a quick one, Clive? Do you think he can do the left eight to the same level?
But
Like,
Bruno,
yeah. I don't think
yeah.
like Rice can grow into it, but I don't think he's there yet. Where his left eighting is what his sixing can be.
Yeah. He
Can I
does
say
it
something about
different.
the left
He
eight?
does it
Oh, sorry.
different. He does it different. It's just different, you know. Rice doesn't do the left eight like Gundogan. He does it like Steven Gerrard would. Run, bang
Yeah.
shot.
Guys, I think we also have to look at what Arteta's vision is. He's telling us that is an off-the-ball player. He got Kai Havertz to be left eight. Now, I don't think anyone thinks it worked as well as we would have liked, but he didn't get Kai Havertz to be left eight with 80 touches and 60 passes. He got him to be there to press, move the ball on, run into the box, arrive late. When Rice plays left eight, what do we use Rice as when he plays left eight? A trash compactor. We crush the opposition in their defensive third.
Yeah.
They can't get out because Rice is a space monster. He will cover the space, close you down, take the ball off. He's not there to place. He's not there to do what Xhaka did. We had Granit Xhaka, who was a 60 pass per game, ping it around triangles, metronome guy. Now we've made the left eight a role that is a pressing monster, ball recovery monster, move it on quickly, arrive in the box guy. And if we bought Kai Havertz to be left eight, that tells me that Mikel Arteta is not an idiot and he's not lying to you. That's what he thinks the left eight in his system should be. A more late arriving, press monster, out of possession player who does a lot of running, but doesn't necessarily do a lot of knitting and stitching and all of that. And I mean, that's not to say that we can't have a player who does that. That's not to say he may not reverse course. I'm going to tell you something people aren't going to like. I bet you're going to see Kai Havertz play left eight sometimes next season. You may think it didn't work, but I guarantee you Mikel Arteta's not ready to say it didn't work, Clive.
Oh, I totally agree on that, and I think it did work on many occasions. Other things didn't work. The reason why I didn't, I sent the forwards let us down on those days when Kai Havertz
Or
played on the
sometimes
left
Kai
wing.
let himself down.
Yeah,
The Villa game at the Emirates is so misunderstood. That first half is one of the better first halves we played this season. And Kai Havertz was played in by Zinchenko multiple times and just couldn't get the ball out of his feet. I still think that there's an opportunity for that to work in the right situation. Sorry.
yeah. I think I call it top of the box. He can play left top of the box or right top of the box. Then there could be a day you want Odegaard to be deeper and say, you know what, you stay in the first phase. We're going to hit twos forwards, and Kai, you stay up there and be the guy that plays the 8-10, if you see what I mean, from the right hand side of the pitch. We just want to create these options, because if we don't have them, we don't evolve. You know, and we've evolved so much from last season to this season, and we want to go again, don't we? And so by creating these multifaceted players who can play different roles and understand their roles within that game model of that day, it's exactly what we want. We as a group of nerds here on this podcast, I'm desperate for us to be surprised, because that means we've added something. If we're surprised, the opposition got no chance of understanding what's coming their way. You know, so that's where my mind is at the moment.
Yeah. Well, so it's interesting. There's going to be a lot of dominoes, I feel, from this Paqueta ban. First of all, West Ham were staring 100 million pounds in the face again for a second consecutive summer, meaning they can hold on to Bowen, they can hold on to Kudus, they can strengthen, they can really be ambitious with their new manager. Now, not only do they lose one of their best players, they lose that player for no compensation. So they now are West Ham, not without Paqueta, but 100 million pounds. They're just West Ham without Paqueta, which might
Unless
mean
they were also betting on the yellow cards, in which case they have the funds from that coming in.
Touche, Paul. Touche. That's right. Yeah. It turns out that they had a parlay on that hit. So Paqueta's 85 million pounds or whatever release clause that he has, that's not in their coffers anymore. They probably now have to sell a Kudus or a Bowen or both or whatever the case may be. That puts them in a weird position, and that creates a merry-go-round there. You do wonder if Palace, who looked so good under their new manager, are going to find a way to hold on to Olise or Eze or both. I doubt it, honestly. I really doubt it. And the money that's going to go in there. So there is a merry-go-round that's going to start. One thing that's interesting here, Clive, is the managerial merry-go-round too. Ten Hag might stay now, which is absolutely freaking hilarious, and I'd absolutely love it. You've got Slot going in at Liverpool. We have no idea what that's going to look like and what he's going to want them to bring in. And then you've got the Chelsea situation. And that one looks really interesting to me, because they were starting to look like a reasonable team, and now Enzo Maresca, the manager from Leicester, I guess, is going to maybe go to Chelsea. So how do you see all these dominoes falling in terms of, we now have managers we don't know much about in Maresca and Slot coming into big clubs with a lot of money and maybe changing the plan there? Maybe there are players that suddenly are surplus to requirements that those guys feel I'd be okay if we got rid of them. Maybe they have some targets that we wouldn't think about. How do you see that all playing out, and maybe the West Ham dominoes as well?
It's going to be interesting, because managers moving around, they're going to affect the transfer market for sure, and people
Hugely,
who they like,
yeah.
and they're going to bring people they know well with them, etc. So Slot, I don't know much about him, if I'm honest. I've read all the articles that everyone else has read. High pressing guy, high energy guy, big personality. The data showed he plays similar football to Klopp, so they got him in. And good luck to them. At least they've shown a little bit of science to how their manager's being selected, rather than just getting someone who knows the club, a la Frank Lampard days. You know what I mean? It's, you do it properly, and they've tried to do it properly at Liverpool with their new structure in place. With Edwards coming back in, and all the boys that Klopp didn't like, they're now back at Liverpool, and so it'll be interesting to see what their structure looks like. Is it Enzo Maresca at Leicester? He's coming, another ex-Guardiola pupil, so everyone will like him, because he not only looks like him, but he actually worked for him. So that will be interesting to see what they do. I watched Leicester this year. In some strange way, they slightly underachieved. I know they should have blown that league apart, and they struggled towards the end. And I watched a lot of their games, because I like watching Steffi Mavididi, just because I know his family, etc. So I think interesting selection. but they had a guy that had done a few laps, was just turning things around one of the last 5 games in Poch, who could end up at Manchester United, in my opinion, if it's not Ten Hag stays. I think that could be an interesting one to watch there. So let's see what happens there. Vincent Kompany going to Bayern Munich. That's another interesting one. And what will he do? What will he bring in? Very City-centric. If you watch him and Arteta on the sideline when we played Burnley, they're almost identical in their behaviours. It's incredible.
Has repercussions for maybe the Jadon Sancho future too? Because the presumption was just that Sancho would go back there permanently.
Maybe.
Pardon me, not to Bayern. Sancho's at Dortmund. Pardon me.
Yeah, Dortmund. Yeah. Let's see what happens there. So let's see. Again, Kompany speaks German. Very important for the Bayern Munich role. Interesting to see him develop. I think that's such an interesting hire. If it happens, I think it's nearly done. If it actually happens, and he'll be someone to watch closely. That's for sure. Well, I don't think it is. I don't think it is. It goes to show you how clubs are measuring success now. It's not just about the trophy. It's about how you play. It's so important. Club fans want to see football that's progressive. They want to see possession-based football. They want to see well-coached football. And I'm so interested to see what he does, because he has got the minerals, mate. He is not some kid. He has got the personality, So, and one last one, as we're sitting here recording, Brighton, who I thought were going to go for Kieran McKenna, but the Ipswich owner came back, offered him a new contract. Very good coach, got 2 promotions in a row for Ipswich, so one to watch there. Obviously, Ipswich should see what they do, how ambitious they're going to be when it comes to signings. And as we were recording, Elliot, Graham Potter potentially back in the frame for Brighton, which I think is it's a hugely positive rumour if it's true. So yeah, let's see what happens.
Yeah, and let's be honest too, we talk transfers. A lot of what Arsenal do is going to be driven as well by who leaves. There could be a lot of outgoings at Arsenal this summer, and I don't know that you're going to replace all of them. We've talked about this on the pod before, right? Like, if Eddie, Nelson, and Smith Rowe all go, from January to the end of the season, you're talking about a combined 250 minutes. So you don't need 3 players to replace those 3 players. Maybe space opens up from one area to be a first team fringe player next season, or something along those lines. We'll see what happens. I think final thing to say, by the way, Leah Williamson committing her future to Arsenal, and that's lovely to see. Arsenal DNA doesn't run much deeper than it does with Leah. Brilliant player, brilliant Arsenal person, and she stays at the club long term. So that's nice to see. At a time of maybe some change coming for the Arsenal women, and that's something that I'm sure Clive and Tim will get stuck into on a One Club podcast. We'll do Transfer Week on Patreon this week. We'll do some scouting. We'll do some rumor coverage, things like that. The next podcast this week, unless any breaking news hits, is going to be what we got right, what we got wrong, re-reviewing season predictions, doing way too early predictions for next season, and just kind of examining, going back to our predictions, how it played out, how we think it might play out next season. As we start to wrap up our season review, the final piece of our season review will be our player-by-player grade for the season. Every player gets a grade for the season, sort of an exit interview of sorts, and then it'll just be full tilt transfers all the time. But of course, as a reminder, we'll have a Euro Daily. That'll be Phil taking command of that over on the Football Vision pod. He went deep on Chelsea and what's going on at Chelsea on the Football Vision pod latest episode. So if you want to hear that, know thine enemy, as they say, you can check it out. Phil is absolutely smashing it over there. So kudos to him. Paul's on Twitter. Pause my pants. Thanks, Pause. Clive's on Twitter. Clive PFC. Thanks, Clive.
Thank you very much.
Back on a regular schedule this week. Lots of transfer stuff on Patreon if you want to join us there, wherever you are. We love you. And we'll talk to you after Arsenal 10 transfer window now.